Blessings, Rock and Metal Guardians. I hope you're doing well wherever you may find yourselves. I'm Dane, host of the channel, and welcome once again to the channel within a channel called Jazz and a Cup of Coffee. And before we dive in to today's album of choice, let me share with you. It's very good. Today's blend is all the way from Palestine, literally. So it's essentially Arabic coffee. I have a student who graduated a few weeks ago, and at the beginning of the school year, she brought me as a gift some coffee from her homeland, and it's quite good, as I said. And she goes back home every once in a while, usually during the summer. And so she brought me a couple of gifts, and one of them was the coffee, because just in conversation, because I had a study hall with her in addition to English 4 class, British Lit, her and another student who also graduated. We would sit around and talk, and I talked about my love of coffee and being the very sweet person that she is. When she went to Palestine, she came back, she gave me the coffee as a gift. So it's very good coffee, as I said. It's my favorite. That and Turkish are my two favorite types of coffee. Although I'm just a coffee nut, but those, if pressed, I would argue are my two favorite. So today's release of choice, here are some hints. There's a documentary on this live CD. So it's a live CD. It's jazz. And the concert in question was in 1970. They came on at 5 p.m. The set list is short. It's under 40 minutes, so it's about 38 and a half minutes. It's the largest audience in jazz history, and I'm talking about Miles Davis playing at the Isle of Wight Festival in 1970. Again, 5 o'clock p.m., still daylight when they go on. And so what's interesting about this album is that you have the wonderful Keith Jarrett, on electric piano. And in the documentary, he talks about how Miles told him that he brought a certain energy to the band, and that's why he wanted him in the band, despite the fact that Jarrett was hesitant to play the electric piano at first, or the organ for that matter, but that's what Miles wanted him to do. And there's a wonderful quality that Jarrett brings to the table. I just love his presence in the band. To quote Jarrett, there's something primal about this era of the band. There's some, now I'm not quoting, but there's some amazing funk, as you know. In addition, there's, shredding on trumpet. As you know, Miles Davis wanted to be a rock star, and he fulfills it, I think, or gets close to it at least. And going back to what Jarrett says, what made the band so great was, of course, improvisation is part and parcel of this type of music, jazz, but also how you approach a note. He talks about, Jarrett does in that documentary, so how you come at it is what's important. And coming from me, the chemistry, and of course Jarrett's implying that as well, the chemistry, concerning all the lineup changes. And of course Miles Davis kept changing the lineups because that's he said, how you grew as a musician. And of course, in doing so, Miles takes these musicians under his wing. So many have come and gone that have gone on to be greats in their own right, like Herbie Hancock, Wayne Shorter, of course, Keith Jarrett, still around today. Wonderful musician, just to name a few. And of course, synergy. As far as chemistry and synergy goes, kind of a sidebar here, and then we'll talk about the album itself. The top bands that have the best synergy and chemistry of all time are, not in any order, are as follows. Miles Davis, no matter what era in the electric period. Led Zeppelin, Rush, King Crimson, Mott the Hoople, Genesis, Yes. The Beatles, Genesis while Hackett's in the band. Yes, before 90120. The Beatles, of course, Jimi Hendrix, and Swans. Now, a little side note, I just discovered the other day that Keith Jarrett sued Steely Dan because a song on their first album, Steely Dan album, and Jarrett won the lawsuit, was purloined from Keith Jarrett. All right, so let's talk about, finally, here's the album. It's called Bitches Brew Live. Now, this album title is a misnomer for two reasons. One, the first three songs are, well, it's Bitches Brew Live, Live at the Isle of Wight, often in the title, not here on this version, but the first three songs are from the Newport Festival, and they're all good. And then 4 through 9 are from the Isle of Wight Festival. So what's also a misnomer about this album is that it's missing 2 songs from Bitches Brew. So it's mostly Bitches Brew, but it's missing, unfortunately, Pharaoh's Dance and John McLaughlin. So, but make of that what you will. This is still phenomenal. So here are the tracks. The 3 songs from the Newport Festival. Miles Runs the Voodoo Down, almost 10 and a half minutes. It's fabulous. Sanctuary, a staple, just short of 4 minutes. It's wonderful. It's About That Time / the theme, almost 10 minutes. So that's the Newport Festival. These are amazing tracks live. Then for the Isle of Wight Festival, you get Bitches Brew. Directions, then Bitches Brew. Bitches Brew is just over 10 minutes. Then 6, It's About That Time. Sanctuary again, but just 1 minute and 10 seconds, so it's brief, unfortunately. Spanish Key, 8 minutes, 15 seconds. And then the theme, 2 minutes and 10 seconds. So the true gems of this album, if we talk about the Newport Festival, is all 3 of those songs that I mentioned. And then as far as at the Isle of Wight, it's all good, but the standout tracks that shine the brightest are Bitches Brew, It's About That Time, and Spanish Key. So if you're not familiar with this album, here it is again. And here's the back. I guess that's Miles with his girlfriend or wife. And let me get the little booklet out here. There's a video on the concert that you could watch on YouTube, I believe, although I haven't looked at it in years. But there is a wonderful picture of Miles in his jeans that have studs on them, and his long sleeve shirt there, and his, of course, trumpet with those wah-wah pedal, but it's not, you don't see the wah-wah there, but it is in the concert. And I love this photo. Speaking of amazing player, Gary Bartz. Did I show that too briefly? So let's talk about the band. Tracks 1 through 3, Newport Festival. You have, of course, Miles on trumpet, Chick Corea, electric piano, Dave Holland on bass, Jack DeJohnette on drums. Of course, not always, but wonderfully produced by Teo Macaro. And 4 through 9, Isle of Wight, Miles Davis on trumpet, Gary Bartz, alto sax and soprano sax, Chick Corea once again, Keith Jarrett, as I mentioned, on organ, Dave Holland bass. Dave Holland's so underrated, if you ask me. Jack DeJohnette, again on drums, and Arto Moreira on percussion. Again, recorded live at the Isle of Wight on August 29th, 1970. Remixed by Tom Cadley. You have to get this. If you're a Miles Davis fan and you don't have this, you're going to have to get this. I'm not going to say sad to say, but it's a delight to say, because if you want to hear Miles play in his peak, and his peak is a huge period of time, but this is part of the peak of his peak, if you will, and that rock star element of which I won't try to imitate. Watch the video. It's fabulous. He goes to town on his trumpet like no other man. Just something special about this talent. So this is a brief video, as you can tell, but I'm sorry I haven't done these week by week. Just it's not plausible to do these every Sunday like I would like to do, but I will do them from time to time. So again, Miles Davis, Bitches Brew Live. A bit of a misnomer because it's missing two key tracks, but it's worth having. Take care. God bless. Have a wonderful Sunday. Bye now.